You are about to experience Jackson Snyder Presents. Direct from the Vero Essin Yahad, a Hebrew Nation radio original program. JSP is a variety show seeking out Jewish and Christian origins, religion, theology and history, and doing so in a fashion that is both educational and entertaining. Welcome to Jackson Snyder Presents.
"35 years ago, I was going about doing seminars on the Bible codes. I think it was that long ago. If I'm matching up where I was with the timeline, I would say yes. Like I went to the Gideons, and I went to Kiwanis Club, and I went to some churches, and I explained it. I didn't say whether I agreed with it or not. I wasn't a scholar enough at that time, and I hardly knew the Hebrew letters then. And now after all this time, it comes up again. The Bible Code, hidden messages from another realm. Again from Ancient Origins Premium. I tell you, I'm not getting paid for this, but there are so many great articles on ancientorigins.net. That is ancient-origins.net. It's worth putting out whatever it costs every month for a premium membership. A lot of short articles with lots of great illustrations, and some very strange ones at that. I figure, hey, I can make a living reading Ancient Origins articles on YouTube. But I would probably get in a little copyright trouble doing that. And besides, I'd rather be open to what Yahweh has for me. But like Paul says, some things I say are the word of the Lord, and some things are not. This is just a good article. And it's by Jim Willis. Human beings seem to have a natural tendency to look for order and symmetry, even in chaos. They find animals pictured in passing clouds, faces in sunbeams striking window panes, and human figures in natural rock formations. So true. That being the case, it's only natural that they seek out codes buried in ancient texts. But what if they are really there? Let me tell you, I have found some, primarily in the book of Acts. I have found some pretty amazing codes in there. If you've heard some of my other podcasts, you know it's true, like the Names Game. Michael Drosnin, author of the Bible Code and Bible Code 2, The Countdown, claims to have discovered a secret code hidden within the letters and phrases of the world's most popular book. If true, the implications are staggering. It would mean that a supernatural consciousness, or at the very least, a highly evolved entity from an ancient civilization, either on Earth or elsewhere in the galaxy, had the ability to foresee the future and sought to warn humankind about it in a way totally beyond current comprehension. The code, predicted the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Of course, it was not discovered in time to prevent the murder, but that doesn't always have to be the case, says Drosnin. He sent a letter to Yitzhak Rabin, warning him of an attempted assassination. The letter reached Rabin in plenty of time, but it was apparently ignored, and the assassination happened. I think it was something like an assassin will assassinate. I don't mean to laugh, but I don't know, it just happened. I'm sorry. The Bible Code, if one's to believe Drosnin, predicted World War II and Watergate, the Holocaust, the atomic bomb blast at Hiroshima, the moonwalk, the Gulf War, and the New York Twin Towers attacks of September 11, 2001, all were predicted in a complicated code that is even now only in the first stages of being interpreted. It was there all along, but until the invention of computers, it was impossible to decipher. Does this mean the code was meant to be discovered only after humankind had reached a sophisticated level of technology? Drosnin does not appear to be a religious fanatic. He insists he does not believe in God. He is an investigative reporter who learned his trade working the night police beat for the Washington Post and covering corporate news for the Wall Street Journal. He didn't even discover the code himself. That honor goes to Dr. Elihu Rips, a Jewish mathematician who lived in Jerusalem, and his colleagues Doron Witztum, and Yoav Rosenberg. But with the publication of the Bible Code in 1997, both Rips and Droznin were thrown into the international spotlight, where they soon attracted a devout following of sincere believers, while at the same time being attacked by those who did not think such a thing possible. Droznin said over and over again, especially at the beginning of his work, that he wished someone would debunk the code. Many attempts have been made and many claims published, but, according to his followers, the mathematics and statistical analysis of the Bible Code have, so far at least, withstood the onslaught. Well, personally, I think that the Bible codes are very vague. Maybe too vague. Anyway, let's go on. What exactly is the Bible Code? From an ancient time, rabbis have passed on the tradition that the Torah, consisting of the first 5 books of the Bible, was given to Moshe on Mount Sinai, written on stone tablets by the very finger of Elohim. Tradition claims that the books were written in Hebrew with no breaks between words. The entire Torah consists and contains 304,805 Hebrew letters. If the original text, or at least a close approximation, is reproduced in the form in which it might have been given to Moshe, and then arranged in columns of 40 rows, each row would contain 7,551 letters. Parenthetical. If one does the multiplication, this does not quite compute, and Droznin offers no explanation. The letters would form a grid that could be read from right to left, as in Hebrew, or left to right, as in English. It could also be read up and down and corner to corner. In short, it would resemble a larger version of the Find the Words game that appears daily in many newspapers. True. There's an illustration here of one section of Scripture with English letters. One line, vertical from left down to right up, Bible. One from left down to right up as well, code. Of course, the code is more complicated than that. Sometimes words and phrases appear to make sense only when a fixed number of letters are skipped. Droznin gives the following sentence as an example. Rips explained that each code is a case of adding every 5th or 10th or 50th letter to form a word. Where's the example? Now read the sentence again, this time emphasizing every 5th letter. Rips explained that each code is a case of adding every 5th or 10th or 50th letter to form a word. The message says, read the code. Oh, so what they have here is they have that long phrase, and you pick out letters out of that phrase without really any... yes, there is an equidistance there. Every 4th letter. In Rips explained that each code is a case of adding every 5th or 10th or 50th letter to form a word. Every 4th letter, when you get up to every, says read the code. That's how it works. The software that Droznin uses and makes available to internet aficionados finds key words in context with other words or phrases in one direction or another. The combination of words that so startled Droznin at the beginning of his search consisted of the name Yitzchak Ravin, crossed with the words assassin that will assassinate. I think that's the one I mentioned earlier. When Ravin was shot and killed on November 4th, 1995, a little more than a year after Droznin wrote to warn him of this hidden message, Droznin came to the astonishing belief that he was dealing with prophecies encoded 3,000 years ago. Many other such messages begin to surface, including one supposedly predicting a terrifying event Droznin witnessed firsthand from his apartment in New York City. After the first 1993 bomb attack at the World Trade Center, Droznin had found the words twin and towers in the Bible, encoded with the words the warning, the slaughter, and crossed by the word terror. In his words,
It never occurred to me that lightning would strike twice, that there would be another terrorist attack on the same two monoliths 8 years later, that it would succeed and knock both towers down.
So right after the 9/11 attack, Droznin returned to his computer. There it was. Embedded in the same text were the words, "Sin, crime of bin Laden, the city and the tower," and the sentence, "They saw smoke rising above the land like the smoke of a furnace." Even the name of the alleged leader of the hijackers, Mohammed Atta, appears, along with the words, "Egyptian man," and the word Pentagon appears, crossed by the word damaged, and the phrase emergency from Arabia, that is Arabia in English. At the same time Droznin was making these discoveries, Eliyahu Rips, working from his home in Israel, discovered the same message and emailed it to Droznin in New York. The words are in the Bible, and anyone who uses the proper software can find them, whether they read Hebrew or not. No one questions the method per se, only the significance of the results. How likely or unlikely is it that messages such as those Droznin found will occur in a given text? That is the central question driving those who have attempted to discredit the code. Droznin himself professes to be mystified by the existence of the hidden word strings he has discovered. Eliyahu Rips has no problem with believing the code exists because ancient Jewish tradition claims the Torah came first and then the creation. Evidently a rabbinical tradition that is somewhat illogical. First the word, then the act, they say. Does not the Torah itself claim that God spoke the world into existence? God said, ... and it was so. For Rips, a devout Jew, the Bible code only affirms what the rabbis have been saying for 3,000 years. Isaac Newton believed the Bible to be a cryptogram by the Almighty, the riddle of the Godhead, the riddle of past and future events divinely foreordained. According to Rips, the Bible code is now beginning to be understood because man has reached the time of the end. The prophet Daniel foretold this. When he was faced with visions beyond his comprehension, he asked the Almighty's angel, "My Yah, what will the outcome of all this be?" He was told, "Go your way, Daniel, because the words are closed up and sealed until the time of the end." Daniel 12:8 and 9. In 1998, Droznin gave a sealed envelope to his lawyer, not to be opened until 2002. In the letter he predicted,
The world will face global economic collapse, starting in the Hebrew year of 5762,
which is 2002 in the modern calendar.
This will lead to a period of unprecedented danger, as nations with nuclear weapons become unstable and terrorists can buy or steal the power to destroy whole cities. The danger will peak in the Hebrew year of 5766.
2006 in the modern calendar.
The year that is most clearly encoded with both a world war and atomic holocausts.
Of course, when 2006 came and went without consequences of this nature, the whole controversy began to fade into the mists of conspiracy theories past and present, but still, true believers searched the scriptures for more information. Droznin is a master storyteller. He believes that the code came from aliens from another planet. They seeded the earth with DNA to produce life, and because they were able to observe time from outside, they could also warn mankind when its self-destruction approached. They did this with a code that came equipped with a time lock. Mankind would not be able to destroy itself until he had perfected the technology to do so. That technology involves the invention of computers. Computers are also the key that unlocks the Bible code. It could not be deciphered without them. Droznin even claimed to know when and where the Bible code was delivered. He says that the code itself reveals this information. The event occurred at the time of the birth of civilization, the agricultural revolution of some 6,000 years ago. The place was what Drosnin calls the Lisan Peninsula, a tongue of land extending into the Dead Sea from Jordan. The spacecraft landed there and perhaps even placed 2 obelisks that will one day be recovered. These contain the complete key to the Bible code. The time frame he gives is significant. When Drosnin was in his prime and commanded his largest audience, most of academia agreed that civilization began just the way he presented it. But since the discovery of the Göbekli Tepe, and the agricultural revolution, the rise of civilization has now been relocated and redated. It is now believed that it happened further north, in Turkey, and much earlier in time, at least 11,800 years ago. Wow. Still, the art of writing began, to the best of current knowledge, at about this time, in ancient Mesopotamia. Why this sudden spurt of human progress some 6,000 years ago? According to Drosnin, it was because mankind had help. Many people have wondered if there is other intelligent life in the universe. If evidence were discovered, they say, perhaps the world would change its ways. Maybe if mankind knew they were not alone, all might band together and work for the common good. Honestly, I doubt it. We have a sad philosophy in humankind in these days. This is not simply idle thought. During a 2009 joint interview by Charlie Rose with George Shultz, President Ronald Reagan's Secretary of State, and President Gorbachev of the USSR, yay Gorby, it was revealed that something strange had happened during a summit meeting between Reagan and Gorbachev on November 19th, 1985. The encounter took place in Geneva, Switzerland. All of a sudden, you and President Reagan took a walk, Schultz explained. You went down to some cabin on Lake Geneva where there was a fire in a fireplace and sat down there. I wasn't there, but I know when you came back, there were 2 friends, almost, talking about what was going to happen. Then we went to the next ta-ta-ta-ta. Gorbachev cuts in. As a fireside house, President Reagan suddenly said to me, "What would you do if the United States were attacked by someone from outer space? Would you help us?" But I said, "No doubt about it." And he said, "We too. Now I'll have a Pepsi." So that's interesting.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Reagan was later quoted at a 1987 address at the United Nations. I couldn't help but one point in our discussion privately with General Secretary Gorbachev, when you stop to think that we're all God's children, wherever we may live in the world, I couldn't help but say to him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in those meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet outside in the universe. We'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together. Well, I don't suppose we can wait for some alien race to come down and threaten us, but I think that between us we can bring about that realization. Thank you, Ron! Thank you, Ron! Thank you, Ron! Drosnin claims that there is evidence the Earth... a little bit of grammatical error here. The Earth has been visited and mankind is not alone. That evidence is the Bible code. It is irrefutable proof that other, more mature life forms are even now affording mankind a chance to grasp at the straw of a hopeful future rather than endure the gloomy tragedy of extinction. Are there no optimists in this world anymore but me? Why the Bible? Why that particular book? The power is technology. It's technological. I agree. These anti-technology messianics, Christians, hey, how is Yahweh to bring forth a millennial kingdom as is described in Scripture without technology? Think about it. Also, the forces are economic. The power is technological, the forces are economic. But the people doing the acts are often inspired by religion. Muslim terrorist rage against America, the great Satan. American leaders pray that God will bless America. Israeli troops carry the Torah in their packs. Jew against Muslim, Christian against Jew, Muslim against Christian, and all these religions revere the book. That is why it is there in the Bible that one reads about what might be man's end, but what must be man's hope. Now, I agree with the end there. I sometimes wonder how in the world the Bible can be hailed, seeing as how, especially the New Testament, was put together by such outrageously sinful men. Don't you? Drosnin's detractors are legion. Foremost among them was Brendan Mackay, a mathematician who taught in the Department of Computer Science at the Australian National University in Canberra. Mackay insisted that the code merely illustrates mathematical probabilities inherent in any text of sufficient length. Using a Hebrew translation of Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace, Mackay demonstrated that messages could be found supposedly encoded in texts other than the Bible. He also pointed out that the Hebrew of the Torah contains no vowels, making it easier to concoct meanings where none in fact exist. I have to agree with that. I'm not saying that the Bible codes don't work. I'm just saying that anybody with a software program is going to be able to read into those texts anything he wants. Mackay was so vocal in denouncing Drosnin's research that Drosnin issued what amounted to a challenge. He was quoted in the June 9th, 1997 issue of Newsweek magazine as saying, "When my critics find a message about the assassination of a prime minister encrypted in Moby Dick, I'll believe them." Such a challenge could not be ignored. Using the same software and techniques with which Drosnin supposedly deciphered the Bible code, Mackay went to work on Moby Dick. There he found revealed the assassinations of, among others, Indira Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., John F. and Robert Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln, and Yitzhak Rabin. He also discovered the exile of Leon Trotsky. Besides all that, he discovered the name of Princess Diana and, in close proximity, the words, "mortal in these jaws of death."
I wonder if they've been looking for my name. My name is hard to spell, you know. Schrumpf. Schrumpf.
Well, sir, if you want to buy the software, we can look it up and see what your fate is. You've already lived 94 years. What more do you want? If all that were not enough, listen to this. Mackay discovered in Moby Dick a prediction of Michael Drosnin's death. The letters M. Drosnin were crossed by the words, "him to have been killed." With the other words scattered throughout the letter picture, Mackay deduced that Drosnin would be killed by someone driving a nail into his heart that slices out a considerable hole. Don't tell me that happened. Don't even tell me that happened. Because if it did, we're going to have to get the Nazarene Acts out and see what it says in there. The event will transpire in Athens, or at least in Greece. Both words appear in the code, and apparently happened on the first day of Drosnin's visit there. Even the names of the murderers are revealed. They happen to be two famous code researchers. The plot thickens. Heated exchanges continue between followers of Drosnin and followers of McKay. Drosnin's camp insisted that although mathematical coincidences appear in other books, the certifiable predictions found in the Bible far outnumber those of other books, and fewer skips are needed to form words in the original Hebrew of the Torah than in books written by other authors. McKay counters that this is not the case at all, and he and other scientists continue to offer evidence in support of this point. Now we're coming down to the end. As with most matters of religion, it appears that whether people believe in the code is a matter of whether they want to believe in it. Drosnin's followers are finding new messages and posting them on the internet almost every day. McKay's followers say that the Drosnin camp is finding key prophetic hits because, mathematically speaking, in this kind of system one finds what one expects to find. In other words, it is a rigged study done by people predisposed to find what they are looking for, whether it is really there or not. You know, it sounds almost quantum. If it's observed, it goes away. In this case, if it's observed, it is there. You get the parable. Now, this excerpt is adopted from Censoring God, Lost Books of the Bible and Other Suppressed Scriptures by Jim Willis, to be released by Visible Ink Press in 2021. It is used here by permission. I do not have permission. Don't tell on me. I thought this is very interesting. Jim Willis is author of several books on religion and spirituality. He has been an ordained minister for over 40 years while working part-time as a carpenter. Good for him. The host of his own drive time radio show, an arts council director, and adjunct college professor in the fields of world religions and instrumental music. He's the author of Hidden History, Ancient Aliens, and the Suppressed Origins of Civilization. What a pliable fellow is this Jim Willis. I hope you enjoyed that article as much as I did. I really did. As I said before, it's been many years since I was teaching the Bible codes. Since then, they seem too much like, just as Willis said, being read into like assassin will assassinate. I don't know. You who are into Bible codes, try my name. Jackson Snyder, S-N-Y-D-E-R.
Oh, try my name first. I came upon it first. S-C-H-R-U-U-M-K-O-F-F. I'm sure you're going to find something, because I would really like to tell you about my history of fighting Nazis and communists in Ukraine way back years and years ago, and that's what I would like to talk about.
Yeah, someday we'll get your full story if you will ever compose it. Thank you. We enjoyed it.
In the West we have our problems, our salary caps, our Lexuses and Beamers are just enough to pass. And in the East where we're manufactured alongside all our clothes, they're cashing in their check and taking over the world. But where I am, there's coffee in my cup, there's cigarettes and magazines littered in the streets. My friends and I, we go out once a week, and where I am is good enough for me. In the South we have our Texicans who keep the border clean. They have their fun in Mexico and hunt down refugees. And in the North we have our friends and French Canadians too. They've got their royal mounties and their maple-leaf tattoos. But where I am, there's money to be made, there's friendships to be broken, and there's bills to be paid. My friends and I have everything we need, and where I am is good enough for me. Sure, I'm not a part of your machine, and maybe you and I are just as different as we seem. But feast or famine, I have found a way to be free. So where I am is good enough for me. Coffee in my cup, there's cigarettes and magazines.